Jake stared at the purple dish in front of him. The food looked nothing like anything he had seen on Earth. Strange shapes floated in a thick sauce that smelled like flowers and rain. Around the table, the hosts watched him with their large golden eyes, waiting. "Go ahead," Captain Lisa whispered from beside him. "We need to show respect." Jake nodded and picked up the strange spoon. It felt too light in his hand, made from some kind of living wood that seemed to bend when he touched it. He scooped up a small portion of the purple food and brought it to his mouth. The taste hit him immediately. Sweet at first, then bitter, then something else he could not name. The around the table made soft clicking sounds with their throats, their way of showing approval. "How is it?" Chris Palmer asked from across the table. His research partner looked nervous. Chris always looked nervous during first contact missions. "Different," Jake said. He took another bite. "Not bad, though." The closest to him, a tall female named, tilted her head. Her skin was pale blue and covered in patterns that shifted like water. She wore robes that seemed too thin for the cold room, but that did not seem to mind temperature the way humans did. "You honor us by sharing our food," said in perfect English. The translation device in her throat made her voice sound musical. "This dish is special. We serve it only to friends." Jake smiled and took another bite. The ceremony continued for another hour. They brought out more dishes, each stranger than the last. Jake tried everything. That was his job. He was on the Meridian, humanity's first diplomatic ship to visit the. His job was to learn everything about these aliens and report back to Earth. They were strange but kind. They lived on a planet covered in swamps and thick forests. Their cities grew from living trees instead of metal and glass. They had no wars in their recorded history. Their government was run by councils of mothers who made all major decisions. Everything about them seemed peaceful. Too peaceful, some people on Earth said, but Jake disagreed. He thought the galaxy needed more peace, not less. After the meal, the delegation returned to the Meridian. The ship floated in orbit above a small dot of human technology in an alien sky. "That went well," Captain said as they walked down the corridor. They seemed genuinely interested in an alliance. "They are," Jake agreed, but something felt wrong. His stomach hurt, a dull ache that was growing stronger. "Captain, I need to stop by medical." "Are you okay?" Chris asked. His friend's eyes went wide with concern. "Just a stomach ache, probably just the new food." Jake tried to smile, but the pain was getting worse, much worse. By the time they reached the medical bay, Jake could barely walk. The pain had spread from his stomach to his chest. His skin felt hot and cold at the same time. Dr. Helen Price took one look at him and rushed him to a bed. "What did you eat?" she demanded, pulling out her scanner. "Everything they served," Jake gasped. His throat felt tight. "Why, what's wrong?" The doctor's face went pale as she read the scanner results. "Your protein chains are breaking down. Something you ate is attacking your cells." She grabbed a tray of medicine. "Captain, we have a problem." Captain leaned over the scanner. "How bad?" "Bad? Whatever toxin this is, it's moving fast. I've never seen anything like it." Dr. Price injected Jake with something that made his arm burn. "I'm giving him every broad-spectrum antidote we have, but I don't know if it will work." Jake tried to speak, but his mouth would not work right. The room started to spin. He heard voices, but they sounded far away. "Contact the," captain ordered. "Tell them we need their medical database right now. One of our people is dying." The next few hours passed in a blur of pain. Jake drifted in and out of consciousness. He heard Dr. Price talking to someone in rapid, worried tones. He heard Chris's voice, angry and scared. He felt needles in his arms, cold liquids being pushed into his veins. Nothing helped. The pain grew worse. Jake opened his eyes to find standing beside his bed. The female looked down at him with those strange golden eyes. Her skin patterns were moving faster than before, swirling like a storm. "I am sorry," she said softly. We did not know. The protein in that dish, it is harmless to all species we know. But humans, you are different. Can you fix it? Captain asked. She stood on the other side of the bed, her face hard with worry and anger. Your doctor cannot, said. The toxin is changing his cells too quickly. By the time she identifies it and makes a cure, he will be dead. She paused. But there may be another way. What way? Chris demanded. We'll try anything. Looked at Captain for a long moment. It requires trust, great trust, and it breaks laws of my people. Her skin patterns shifted to a dark purple color. I should not even speak of it to outsiders. Jake is dying, the captain said. If you can save him, tell me how. My people, we evolved on a world full of poisons, began. Her voice was quiet, almost ashamed. Many plants and animals on our planet can kill. Long ago, many children died from eating the wrong things. So our bodies changed. Mothers developed a way to save their young. Jake tried to listen, but the words were getting harder to understand. His vision was growing dark at the edges. What kind of way? Captain asked. A compound. We produce it during our maternal phase. It can neutralize most organic toxins. Its patterns turned almost black. But the way it must be given, it is sacred to us. Private. We never share it with outsiders. But you'll share it with Jake. Nodded slowly. I will, but he must agree. Even dying, he must choose this, and he must trust me completely. If he cannot, the healing will not work. Captain turned to Jake. Can you hear me? Jake managed a small nod. Everything hurt. He could feel his body shutting down piece by piece. Can save you, but it requires something unusual. Do you trust her? Trust an alien he barely knew, trust her with his life. Jake looked up at his face. Her golden eyes were full of sadness and determination. She was risking something important to save him. He could see that much. He nodded again. Then close your eyes, said gently, and do not open them until I say, this is our way, you must respect it. Jake closed his eyes. The last thing he heard before darkness took him was voice, soft and steady, speaking words in her own language that sounded like a song. Captain Lisa watched as moved around the medical bay with careful steps. The female had sent everyone out except the captain herself. Even Dr. Price had to leave, though she protested loudly. You need to understand what I am offering, said. She stood near the medical station, her blue skin patterns moving in slow waves. My people do not speak of this to outsiders, ever. Then why tell me? Lisa asked. She kept her voice calm, but inside she felt desperate. Jake was dying. She had less than 6 hours to save him. Because he needs to know what he is agreeing to. Picked up a data pad and began typing. And you need to know what I am risking. The pad showed images of biology, explained in careful detail. The had evolved on a death world, though not in the way humans thought of death worlds. Their planet was not harsh because of gravity or temperature. It was harsh because everything on it was poisonous. Our plants produce toxins, said. Our animals produce toxins. Even the water in some places can kill. My people learned to survive by adapting. Our bodies learned to process poisons. But that's not enough to save children, Lisa said, beginning to understand. No, children are small, curious. They eat things they should not. For millions of years, children died from accidental poisoning. Patterns turned a sad shade of, so evolution found a solution. Mothers developed a special organ. During pregnancy and for years after, we produce a compound that can neutralize organic toxins. You give it to your children when they are poisoned. Yes, but not through injection or drinking. Paused. We nurse them. The compound is in our milk. It must be fresh and delivered directly to work properly. Lisa felt her face flush. You want to nurse Jake? It is the only way to save him. His voice was firm. The compound breaks down quickly once it leaves the body. I cannot pump it into a bottle. It must be given the traditional way. But you said you're in your maternal phase. Do you have children? Patterns darkened. No, I entered the phase early without pregnancy. It happens sometimes. A biological error. In my culture it is considered unlucky, shameful even. So you produce this milk but have no child to give it to. Until now, yes, met Lisa's eyes. I can save your man, but if my people discover this I will be exiled. The gift of mothers is sacred. To share it with an alien, especially in this way, breaks ancient law. Lisa looked at Jake lying on the bed. His skin had turned. His breathing was shallow. The monitors showed his organs failing one by one. How long does the healing take? She asked. An hour, perhaps two. He must nurse until the compound has neutralized all the toxin, stepped closer to the bed. And he must keep his eyes closed. In our culture, the nursing bond is private. Eye contact during the act implies a deeper relationship. Since he is not my child and not my mate, he must not see me this way. He agreed to trust you, Lisa said. He was barely conscious. You must ask him again now, while he can still think clearly enough to understand what I am asking. Lisa moved to Jake's side. His eyes were half open, glazed with pain. Jake, can you hear me? Yeah, he whispered. His voice sounded weak. Can save you, but the method is going to seem strange. She needs to nurse you, like a mother nurses a child. The compound that can heal you is in her milk. Jake's eyes focused a bit. Nurse me. Yes, it's part of biology. Their mothers produce a healing compound. It's the only way to get it into your system fast enough. Will it work? Jake asked. She believes so. Jake closed his eyes. For a moment Lisa thought he had passed out again. Then he spoke. Tell her yes, tell her thank you. You understand what you're agreeing to, Lisa pressed. You'll need to nurse from her for at least an hour. Captain, I'm dying. Jake's lips curved in a weak smile. My dignity is not worth more than my life. If she's willing to save me this way, I'm willing to accept it. Lisa turned to, he agrees. Nodded. Then we begin, but you must stay, in case something goes wrong, in case he opens his eyes by accident. You must be my witness that this was done properly. Lisa had seen many strange things during her years in space. She had met aliens with 6 legs and aliens with no legs. She had eaten food that moved on the plate and breathed air that smelled like metal. But watching prepare for the healing ritual was different. It felt sacred in a way she did not fully understand. Removed her outer robe. Beneath it she wore a simple cloth wrapped around her body. Her blue skin was covered in those swirling patterns, but now Lisa could see they were not random. They formed pictures, scenes of history, somehow encoded in her very flesh. Our patterns tell our stories, said, noticing Lisa's stare. Mine are still forming. I am young by our standards. She moved to the bed and sat carefully on the edge. Jake lay with his eyes closed, his breath coming in short gasps. Jake said softly, I am here. Remember, you must not open your eyes. Do you understand? I understand, Jake whispered. The healing will feel strange at first. The compound is warm and thick. It will taste sweet. You may see visions. That is normal. Do not be afraid. I won't be. Looked at Lisa one more time. If my people learn of this, tell them I chose freely. Tell them it was the right thing to do. I will, Lisa promised. Began the ritual. She unwrapped the cloth from her upper body and gently lifted Jake's head. She positioned him carefully, the way a mother would position an infant. Her movements were smooth and practiced, though she had never done this for a real child. Lisa looked away to give them privacy, but she stayed close enough to monitor the medical equipment. The toxin levels in Jake's blood were still rising. His heart rate was dropping. They had maybe 4 hours left. Began to sing. The sounds were not in English or any human language. They were the old songs of the passed down through generations. Songs mothers sang to their children during healing. Songs of safety and protection and love. Minutes passed, then an hour. Lisa watched the monitors closely. At first nothing changed. Then slowly, almost too slowly to notice, Jake's vital signs began to stabilize. The toxin levels stopped rising. His heart rate steadied. Whatever was doing, it was working. Lisa felt tears in her eyes, though she was not sure why. Maybe it was relief. Maybe it was seeing something so pure and selfless. An alien woman giving of herself to save a human man she barely knew, risking her place in her own society to save someone from another species. This was what the galaxy needed, Lisa thought. Not weapons or treaties or trade agreements. It needed people willing to sacrifice for each other across every boundary. Song continued, soft and steady in the quiet medical bay. Jake kept his eyes closed like asked. At first he felt only the pain, the same burning agony that had been eating him alive for hours. But then something changed. A warmth spread through his chest, different from the fever heat of the poison. This warmth felt clean, pure. The compound spoke of tasted like honey mixed with rain. It was thick and moved slowly down his throat. The sweetness pushed back against the bitter taste the toxin had left in his mouth. Then the vision started. Jake saw a forest, not a human forest with familiar trees and birds. This was alien and strange. The trees were massive, their trunks wider than buildings. Their leaves were silver and moved even though there was no wind. The ground was covered in purple moss that glowed faintly in the darkness. A young child ran through the forest, small and curious, with skin patterns that had not yet fully formed. The child picked a bright red flower and brought it to her mouth. No, Jake wanted to shout, "Don't eat that." But the child did eat it, and immediately the child fell, crying out in pain. Her mother came running, blue skin flashing with alarm, patterns swirling in distress. The mother scooped up the child and began the same ritual was performing now. The child nursed, and slowly the poison left her body. The mother's patterns changed from alarm to relief to love. The vision shifted. Jake saw hundreds of these moments, thousands. Children saved by their mothers over countless generations. Each time a mother gave of herself to pull her child back from death. Each time the bond between them grew stronger. He began to understand why this act was sacred to the. It was not just about feeding or healing. It was about sacrifice, about choosing to give your own life force to save another, about love made physical. The visions continued. Jake saw the history of the people unfold like a book. He saw them evolving in those poisonous swamps, saw them learning to work together, forming communities where mothers shared knowledge about which plants were safe and which were deadly. Saw them building their first cities from living wood that would not poison them. He saw wars that were not fought with weapons but with words, councils of mothers debating for days, sometimes months, to find peaceful solutions. He saw aliens from other species coming to the aggressive and armed, expecting an easy conquest. He saw those same aliens leaving with tears in their eyes, changed by the way of peace. And he understood something else. They were not weak. They chose peace because they were strong enough to choose it. They had the power to fight but the wisdom not to. The warmth in his chest grew stronger. Jake could feel the compound working through his body, finding every trace of toxin and binding to it. The pain began to fade. First his chest stopped hurting, then his stomach, then his head cleared and he could think properly again. But something else was happening too. A connection was forming between him and not romantic or sexual, something deeper and simpler. The same bond that formed between mothers and their children, a bond of trust and protection and care. Jake felt some emotions flowing into him through that bond. He felt her fear. She was terrified of what her people would do when they found out about this. Exile was the least of her worries. Some of the old traditional believed that sharing the maternal gift with an outsider was a crime worthy of death. But beneath the fear, Jake felt something else. Pride. Was proud of what she was doing. She believed it was right, even if her culture said it was wrong. She was choosing to save a life over following a rule, and that made her brave in a way Jake had rarely seen. He wanted to tell her he understood, wanted to thank her, but he kept his eyes closed and stayed silent. This was her ritual, her gift. The least he could do was receive it with respect. The visions shifted again. This time Jake saw Earth, his own planet through eyes. He saw human mothers holding their bobbies, saw them making the same sacrifices mothers made, staying up all night with sick children, going hungry so their kids could eat, working 2 jobs to pay for medicine. The love was the same, the sacrifice was the same, only the biology was different. And Jake realized that was what had seen in him. That was why she chose to save him, because she recognized that humans and were not so different after all. Both species understood that the strongest love meant putting someone else's life before your own. Time became strange. Jake did not know if minutes were passing or hours. The warmth continued to spread through his body. His organs began to heal. The cellular damage the toxin had caused started to reverse. His body was absorbing the compound and using it to rebuild what had been broken, but was growing weaker. Jake could feel it through their bond. Giving this much of herself was draining her. The compound did not come without cost. It pulled from her own life force, her own energy reserves. "Stop," Jake wanted to say. "You've given enough. Don't hurt yourself to save me." But did not stop. She continued the ritual, continued singing her soft songs, continued giving until she was certain every trace of toxin was gone from his system. Finally, after what felt like forever, song ended. Jake heard her breathing hard, heard the rustle of cloth as she covered herself again. "It is done," she whispered. Her voice sounded exhausted. "You can open your eyes now." Jake opened his eyes slowly. The medical bay light seemed too bright at first. He blinked and his vision cleared. Sat on the edge of his bed, her blue skin much paler than before. Her patterns were barely moving at all. She looked like she might collapse at any moment. Captain was at her side immediately, helping to a chair. "Are you okay?" Lisa asked. "I gave more than I planned," said. Her golden eyes met Jake's. "But he is healed completely. The toxin is gone." Jake sat up. The movement should have hurt, but it did not. He felt weak but not sick, tired but not dying. He looked at the medical monitors and saw his vital signs were normal. Everything was normal. The toxin that should have killed him was gone. "Thank you," he said too. The words felt too small for what she had done. "Thank you for saving my life." Smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Thank the universe that I was here, that I had the ability to help." She closed her eyes. "Though I am not sure I will be thanked by my own people." "They'll understand," Lisa said, "when they know you saved a life." "Perhaps," did not sound convinced. "Or perhaps they will only see that I broke our oldest law." Jake stood on shaky legs and walked to where sat. He knelt down so he was at eye level with her. "Whatever happens, I want you to know something. What you did was the most courageous thing I've ever seen. You risked everything to save a stranger. That's not wrong. That's beautiful." His patterns brightened slightly. "Your people believe this." "My people have a saying. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down their life for their friends." Jake took her hand. It felt cool and dry in his. "You did that for me, a stranger who became a friend. Your people should be proud of you." "I hope they see it that way," said quietly. But her golden eyes held doubt, and in his heart Jake feared she was right to doubt. Some rules, once broken, could not be forgiven, even when breaking them saved a life. A soft alarm sounded from the communication panel. Captain moved to answer it. Her face went pale as she listened to whoever was speaking. "The council knows," she said, turning to. "They're monitoring your biological signs. They know what you did. They want both of you to appear before them immediately." Stood slowly. Her legs shook, but she kept her balance. "Then we go. Better to face judgment than to run from it." Jake stood beside her. "We'll face it together." Council chamber was carved from a single massive tree. The walls were alive, breathing slowly. their surface covered in glowing patterns that matched the skin of the people. Jake had never seen anything like it. The room felt ancient and powerful. 12 matriarchs sat in a circle around the center of the chamber. Each was old, their skin patterns complex and deep. These were the leaders of the people, the mothers who made all major decisions for their species. Walked into the center of the circle with her head held high. Jake walked beside her. Captain and Chris Palmer followed a few steps behind. The human delegation stood together, facing judgment in an alien court. The eldest matriarch spoke first. Her voice was like wind through leaves, soft but carrying through the chamber. Daughter of the Silver Swamps, you stand accused of breaking sacred law. You shared the maternal gift with an outsider, with an alien. Do you deny this? I do not deny it, said clearly. Her voice was steady despite her exhaustion. I gave freely to save a life. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Some of the matriarchs' patterns flashed red with anger. Others showed blue concern. A few remained neutral. The law is clear, another matriarch said. Her patterns were the darkest red Jake had seen on any. The gift of mothers belongs only to our children. To share it with an outsider is to diminish its sacred nature. You have committed a crime that demands exile. Or worse, a third matriarch added. Jake stepped forward before anyone could stop him. If I may speak. The eldest matriarch's golden eyes fixed on him. You are the one who was healed, the human who nearly died. Yes, my name is Jake, I'm from Earth. He looked around at the 12 ancient faces. I didn't know what was offering when she said she could save me. I was dying and desperate, but even if I had known, I would have said yes. Not because I wanted to violate your laws, because I wanted to live. Your desire to live does not excuse the breaking of our laws, the angry matriarch said. No, it doesn't, Jake agreed. But I hope it helps you understand why I did what she did. She saw someone dying, someone who could be saved if she acted, and she chose compassion over custom. In my culture, we honor people who make that choice. Your culture is not ours, the matriarch replied coldly. No, but we're not as different as you think. Jake pulled out his data pad. He had spent the last few hours preparing for this moment. May I show you something? The eldest matriarch nodded. Jake activated the pad and images appeared in the air above it, projected for everyone to see. These are human mothers, Jake said. The images showed women from all over Earth. Women of different colors and cultures, all holding their children. We don't have your biological gift. Our milk doesn't heal toxins, but we understand what it means to give yourself to save your child. He cycled through the images. A mother donating her kidney to her daughter. A mother working 3 jobs to pay for her son's medicine. A mother throwing herself in front of a car to push her child to safety. We understand sacrifice, Jake continued. We understand that love means putting someone else's life before your own. Showed me that your people understand this too. Better than we do, maybe. You evolved it into your very biology. Some of the matriarch's patterns were softening, shifting from anger to consideration. But here's what I learned while was healing me, Jake said. I saw visions, your history, your evolution, and I realized something. The maternal gift wasn't always restricted to only children, was it? Silence fell over the chamber. The matriarchs looked at each other. Chris Palmer stepped forward. He held his own data pad. I've been reading your ancient texts, the ones your historians shared with us. There's a passage from 2,000 years ago. He read aloud. Let the gift of mothers flow to all who suffer. Let no child of any species die when we have the power to save them. The eldest matriarch's patterns shifted to a deep purple. You have been reading our forbidden archives. You gave us access, Chris said. Nothing was hidden from us. And this passage exists in your oldest medical texts. It seems like the restriction against sharing the gift with outsiders is actually a recent law. Relatively recent anyway, only about 1,000 years old. The law was made for good reason, the angry matriarch said, but her voice was less certain now. Other species tried to steal the gift, tried to harvest it from our mothers by force. The law protects us. I understand that, Jake said, and I'm not asking you to change your law. I'm just asking you to see that didn't break your law for selfish reasons. She broke it because she remembered what your oldest ancestors knew, that the gift is most sacred when it's given freely to save a life. Any life. Spoke up for the first time since the hearing began. I knew what I was doing. I knew the cost. But if I had let Jake die when I had the power to save him, would that not also be a crime? To refuse healing when healing was possible? The human would have died regardless, the angry matriarch said. One human life is not worth risking exile over. Every life is worth that risk, replied firmly. That is what our ancestors believed. That is what I still believe. The chamber fell silent. The matriarchs conferred among themselves in their own language, their patterns flashing and shifting as they debated. Jake watched and waited. His fate was being decided. His fate was being decided. And maybe the fate of human relations, too. Finally, the eldest matriarch spoke. You acted according to your conscience. You chose to save a life over following a rule. Some of us believe this was noble. Others believe it was foolish. Her patterns shifted through several colors before settling on gold. We are divided. What does that mean? Captain asked. It means we cannot reach a unanimous decision, and without unanimity we cannot impose the harshest punishment. The elder looked at with something that might have been respect. You will not be exiled. You will not be killed, but you cannot go unpunished either. I understand, said. What is my punishment? You will become our liaison to humanity. You will be the bridge between our species. The elder's patterns brightened. You have already formed a bond with this human. Let that bond be the foundation of a greater alliance. That's a punishment, Jake asked. It sounded like a reward. For yes, the elder said sadly. She will live apart from our people for many years. She will miss the birth of her siblings' children. She will miss celebrations and ceremonies. She will grow old among aliens instead of among her own kind. This is no small sacrifice. Jake looked at her. Patterns were swirling with mixed emotions. Relief, sadness, acceptance. However, the elder continued, this also opens a possibility we have not considered before. The human speaks truly when he says we are not so different. Perhaps it is time we remember our oldest laws. Perhaps the gift should flow to all who suffer, as our ancestors believed. You would change the law, the angry matriarch asked in shock. I would amend it, the elder corrected. Not all can receive the gift. It would still be sacred, still protected. But in cases like this, where a life can be saved and the mother chooses freely, perhaps an exception can be made. The other matriarchs murmured among themselves. Finally, one by one, their patterns shifted to gold. Agreement. Then it is decided, the elder said. You will work with the humans, help them understand our ways, and help us understand theirs. She looked at Jake. And you, human, you will bear the responsibility of this bond. Gave part of herself to save you. Do not make her sacrifice meaningless. I won't, Jake promised. I swear it. The hearing ended. As they left the chamber, walked slowly beside Jake. Her exhaustion was obvious, but her patterns were brighter than they had been. Are you okay with this? Jake asked quietly. Being sent away from your people. Was quiet for a moment. It is not what I hoped for, but it is better than I feared. And perhaps they are right. Perhaps I am meant to build bridges between species. You already saved one bridge, Chris said. He had been quiet during most of the hearing, but now he smiled. You saved Jake, and Jake is going to change how humans see your people. That's important work. They returned to the Meridian together. The ship felt different now. Less like a foreign object in space and more like a meeting place between two worlds. A place where understanding could grow. 3 days after the hearing, Jake stood in the Meridian's observation deck watching the turn slowly below. The planet was beautiful. Silver forests covered most of the surface, broken up by purple oceans and massive swamps that glowed at night with their own light. Stood beside him. She had recovered most of her strength, though her patterns still moved slower than before. Giving so much of herself to heal him had taken a lasting toll. "I'm sorry," Jake said quietly. "For what?" asked. "For costing you so much. Your strength, your place among your people, your home." Tilted her head in that distinctly way. "Do you know what I saw when I was healing you?" "Visions, I had them too." "I saw your heart," said. "Not the physical organ, the deeper heart, the part that makes you who you are, and I saw that you are kind, that you would never deliberately hurt someone, that you value life, even alien life, as sacred." She turned to face him fully. "That is why I chose to heal you, not because you were dying, though that mattered, but because I saw that saving you would save someone worth saving, someone who would use their life to make the universe better." "I don't know if I'm that person," Jake said honestly. "You are, I saw it." Patterns brightened. "And you are not the only one who benefited from what happened. My people needed to remember our oldest values. We had become too insular, too focused on our own species. You reminded us that compassion should have no boundaries." Captain entered the observation deck. She looked tired but pleased. "I just received word from Earth. They want us to establish a permanent diplomatic post with the We're staying." "For how long?" Chris asked. He had been working at one of the science stations. "Indefinitely. They're sending more ships, more people. They have agreed to share technology with us. Medical technology, agricultural methods, ecological restoration techniques. This is going to change everything." Jake felt a weight lift from his chest. So it worked. The alliance is real. "More than real, it's thriving," Lisa smiled at. "Your people asked specifically that you remain as the primary liaison. They trust you to represent them fairly." Patterns swirled with emotion. Pride and sadness mixed together. "I will serve as best I can." Over the next several weeks, Jake worked closely with. They set up research programs to study biology and ecology. They established communication protocols between the two species. They wrote reports and gave presentations, and slowly built the foundation of a lasting friendship between humanity and the. But they also learned about each other on a deeper level. Jake told about Earth, about his childhood growing up near the ocean, about his mother who had been a teacher and his father who had been a doctor, about how he had always been fascinated by life in all its forms. Told him about the silver swamps where she was born, about how she had been small and weak as a child, not expected to survive, about how her own mother had given everything to keep her alive, about how that experience had made her want to heal others the way she had been healed. "That's why the maternal gift is so important to you," Jake realized. "It saved your life." "Many times," agreed. "I was a sickly child, always eating the wrong plants, always getting poisoned. My mother grew thin because she gave so much of herself to save me." Her patterns shifted to deep blue, the color of grief. "She died young because of it, worn out from keeping me alive." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. She chose to save me, just as I chose to save you. That is what love means. Choosing someone else's life over your own comfort, over your own safety, over even your own life if necessary." Jake thought about his own mother, how she had worked extra shifts to pay for his education, how she had given up her own dreams so he could chase his. Love and sacrifice looked different in different cultures, but the root was the same. "I think that's what your council was really testing," Jake said, "when they put that poisonous food in front of me." Patterns froze. "What do you mean?" "I've been thinking about the hearing, about what the eldest matriarch said at the end." Jake pulled up his notes on his data pad. "She said something about other species coming to your world, aggressive and armed, expecting easy conquest, but they left changed." "Yes, this has happened several times in our history." And she said I spoke truly when I said we're not so different, like she was testing whether humans understand sacrifice. Jake looked at. The poisoning wasn't an accident, was it? Was silent for a long moment. You should not have survived the dose you were given, not without help. The council knew this. They poisoned me on purpose. Not to kill you, to test us both. His patterns shifted to gold. They wanted to see if I would help, if I would break our law to save an alien, and they wanted to see how you would respond, whether you would demand the healing as if it was owed to you, whether you would be grateful or entitled, whether you would respect our ways or mock them. Jake felt anger flash through him. They risked my life for a test. They gave me the antidote to slip into your food if I chose not to help, said gently. You would have recovered naturally, though it would have been unpleasant. They were never going to let you die. But you didn't know that. No, I thought you were truly dying, and I chose to save you the only way I knew how. Met his eyes. That was the test. Would I sacrifice my position, my safety, my home, to save someone from another species? Would I remember our oldest values or hold to our laws? And I passed too, Jake realized. By closing my eyes, by respecting your ritual, by accepting help instead of demanding it. Yes, other species we tested did not respond this way. Some refused help, too proud to accept nursing like a child. Others demanded it but showed no gratitude. Others tried to see during the ritual, violating the sacred nature of the act. All of them failed. So humans passed. You passed, and because you did, the Council believes humanity as a whole might be worthy of alliance, smiled. You represented your entire species in that moment, though you did not know it, and you showed them that humans understand sacrifice, that you value compassion, that you can be vulnerable without being weak. Jake sat down heavily. That's a lot of pressure to put on one poisoned. Perhaps, but you handled it well, sat beside him. And now both our peoples benefit. They have allies who understand us. Humans have access to our knowledge and friendship, all because one human chose to accept help with grace and one chose to give help with courage. Chris walked over to join them. He had been listening from his workstation. I've been analyzing the compound gave you. It's incredible. The way it bonds to toxins and neutralizes them. If we could synthesize it ethically, it could save millions of lives. That's what we need to focus on, Jake agreed. Not just taking the gift, but understanding it well enough to create our own version. Something that doesn't require mothers to give of themselves. My people would support this research, said. We never wanted to hoard the gift. We only wanted to protect it from those who would exploit our mothers. But if humans can create a synthetic version through ethical research, that serves the original purpose of the gift, to save lives. They worked on the project for months. Jake, Chris, and a team of both human and scientists. They studied the compound structure. They learned how it bonded to organic toxins. They tested thousands of formulas trying to recreate its properties. And finally, after 8 months of intense research, they succeeded. The synthetic compound was not quite as effective as the natural one, but it was close. Close enough to save lives. Close enough to matter. The day they announced the breakthrough, representatives from a dozen species came to the word had spread through the galaxy about the human who was healed by a mother, about the alliance that formed from that act of compassion. Other species wanted to join, wanted to be part of something built on sacrifice and mutual respect rather than conquest and fear. Jake stood before the assembled aliens and told the story, all of it. The poisoning, the healing, the ritual, the cost. He spoke plainly about what had given up to save him. He talked about how that one act had changed everything. My people have a lot to learn, Jake said. We've made mistakes. We've been violent and proud and foolish. But we're also capable of gratitude, of recognizing sacrifice when we see it, of honoring those who give of themselves for others. He gestured to who stood beside him. This woman gave me life. She gave me understanding. She gave me a new way to see the universe, and in return, all I can offer is my promise to live worthy of her sacrifice, to use the life she saved to build bridges between species, to work for peace and understanding and compassion." The assembled aliens made various sounds of approval in their different languages. The matriarchs, sitting in their place of honor, showed gold patterns of pride. The eldest matriarch stood. "Let this be known to all species. Humanity has passed our test. They have proven themselves worthy of alliance. Let the gift of healing flow to all who need it. Let compassion have no boundaries. Let us remember what our oldest ancestors knew, that we are all children of the same universe, deserving of protection and care." After the ceremony, Jake and stood together in the observation deck one more time. The sun was setting over painting the silver forests in shades of gold and purple. "What will you do now?" asked. "Your mission is complete. You could return to Earth." "I could," Jake agreed. "But I think I'll stay. There's more work to do here, more bridges to build, and besides, I owe you." "You owe me nothing." "I owe you everything," Jake corrected gently. "You gave me life. The least I can do is spend that life doing something worthwhile." His patterns brightened with happiness. "Then we will work together, human and building a future where all species help each other, where the gift flows freely to all who suffer. Where compassion has no boundaries," Jake added. They stood together watching the stars come out. Two beings from different worlds, bound by an act of sacrifice that had changed everything. Below them, the glowed with its own light. Above them, ships from a dozen species gathered in orbit, all drawn by the same hope. The hope that the universe could be better, that different peoples could work together, that love and sacrifice could bridge any divide. And in that moment, Jake knew had been right. He was worth saving, not because he was special or important, but because every life had value, every being deserved compassion. And when people chose to see that, when they chose to sacrifice for each other across every boundary, the universe became a better place for everyone. That was the true gift, not the compound that healed his body, but the understanding that healed his heart.